If you're just tuning in, this is Boomer Nation, information and inspiration to live, work, and play at your Boomer best. And we're about to hear from Steve Gavatorta, our business communication expert, in the Working Smarter segment with his feature, Straight Talk. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good, thank you.
Good.
You've been teaching us over the past weeks about behavioral styles key to masterful communication.
That's correct.
You've covered the dominant, the influencer, and the steadiness styles. And today we'll hear about the last, but by all means not the least style,
right.
Compliant.
Exactly.
Are these folks like really easygoing?
No, they're not. They're a little more on the compliance side, hence the word compliance. So
Okay.
they are a little, they are not as people-oriented as, say, the influencer and steadiness factor. But just to describe them a little bit, with regard to the behavioral descriptors, words to describe a compliance style include analytical, conservative, deliberative, and very careful. With regard to the three indicators, they are more introverted rather than extroverted. They are more task-oriented rather than people. And lastly, they are direct rather than indirect. Now, they don't seek... they don't seek...
Compliant yet direct.
Absolutely. Huh. Well, they don't seek conflict, but these people are the typical cross the T, dot the I's type folks. So before being wrong on something, they're going to let you know. So they're going to be direct with you. They don't like making mistakes.
But I'm still not getting what makes them compliant.
Well, again,
compliant is like, do as I say, look into my eyes.
Well, a lot of it's driven, if you go into how they deal with change and risk-taking, they don't like change. They're concerned about the effects of change, and they're very low risk takers. So they're afraid to take risks. They're going to be compliant. They don't want to do things wrong. So they're really going to follow rules, be very conservative, and things of that nature as well, too. They're not necessarily going to step out of the box a lot.
Okay, now are these folks going to do as you say, even though they don't like it, and then maybe be behind-the-scene whiners?
Very much. They could be. Exactly. Well, in a lot of ways, they will. Again, as I said, they are direct with you. So if they don't feel comfortable, they'll be upfront with you and let you know they do not feel comfortable with something.
Oh, okay.
Now, to get them to move on something, to get them to accept change, you've got to remove the fear, remove the fear of taking the risk or making the change, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can trust them.
Absolutely.
To be direct and honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
But they will do as they're told, even if they don't like it.
Exactly. Yes, they will, because that goes to that compliant piece. And again, they'll let you know, though, they don't like it. They don't feel comfortable. So they'll be straightforward with you on that. And they'll do as you want them to do, but not without hearing them first.
So how do you best communicate with a compliant personality, behavioral type, so that they will... yes, they'll do what they're told, but you want them to really buy in.
Absolutely.
So how can you get them to buy in?
Yeah, remember, they are fear-driven. They don't like risk. They don't like change. You've got to do everything in your power to remove the fears, to remove the risk-taking. If I'm selling to someone that's a high or dominant compliance style, I've got to do everything in my power to make them feel comfortable with my recommendation. If they don't feel comfortable with making the change or taking my recommendation, they're not going to do that. So you've got to really eliminate risk and fear of change.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
who would be some people we know who would be compliant? Just a little bit of time.
Let's stick to politics. I think if you think of Al Gore, I think would be a compliance style. And in a lot of ways, current President Obama. I think you see that analytical side, the conservative side, not necessarily politically conservative or verbally, let's say, but much more conservative.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never would have thought of that. So what's in store for us next week?
Well, we've covered the three styles. We're getting into learn, read, and adapt. So we learned about, I should say, the four styles. Next week, we're going to talk about reading the styles of those people with whom you're interacting with.
How to read the styles. Very good.
Exactly.
If you want to ask Steve a question, he'll answer either off or on the air. You can leave him a message on our listener line. That's 877-999-1172. Or email your question to steve@boomerradioshow.com. Thanks. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Attention business owners and managers. If you don't have a sales force that consistently exceeds quota or consistent growth in yearly profits, then you're quickly losing your competitive edge, and the Steve Gavatorta Group can change that. The Steve Gavatorta Group is a premier business communications consulting company with a client list that includes Bayer and New York Life. The Steve Gavatorta Group is known as the profitability catalyst. To find out what they can do for your company, call 813-908-1343 or go to Gavatorta.com.